and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. Or as I like to say, so many books, so little time. But anyway, in today's video I'll be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I ever saw over the 20 years I was seeing Broadway shows on a regular basis. Also known as the best years of my life. Yeah, because they were. Yeah, so today I'll be talking about the 11th Broadway show I ever saw. And as per usual with the series on my channel, I'll talk a bit on, who was in the cast at the performance that I saw, who was on the creative team, any favorite songs or moments I had from the show, how I liked the show itself, and anything interesting I may find in the playbill along the way. So before I get started with the video, I actually made a video for this particular show already, but it was way too long and I wasn't really happy with it. So that's why I'm here today. Hopefully this video will be much shorter because that other video was way too long. So that's why I'm kind of like redoing this video. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, today I'll be talking about the 11th Broadway show I ever saw, which was the Broadway revival of 42nd Street. So I saw this particular production of 42nd Street in May of 2001. I saw it on a bus trip, and now let's get on into the playbill. So here is the picture with the credits. And this particular production had like such a large cast. It was so cool. This picture with who is in the, the leads and supporting performers. And this is probably like, the alternates, chorus, and understudies of the cast. And then, last but not least, the cast list. And yes, the musical Shrek apparently, the movie Shrek actually opened in May of 2001. So that was pretty cool to, I guess, look back on memory lane for this. But yeah, in the future, little did this movie know at the time it was going to be made into a Broadway musical in I think 2009. Yeah, so. Anyway, yeah. So as far as who was in the cast, like sometimes I look back on these shows that I've seen, sometimes I remember certain performers that, off the top of my head, like, oh, I remember this person was in this show. And then other times I'm reintroduced to learning, oh, I saw this person in the show, because, it was my 11th Broadway show. At this point, I had remembered a lot of who I was seeing at this point in shows, but, I was still very new as well. So, yeah. Anyway, so, as far as like the main characters, the main performers, you had Kate Levering, Christine Ebersole, and Michael Cumpsey, who those are three performers I remembered off the top of my head they were in the show. And Kate Levering kind of like was one of the leads. She played Peggy Sawyer, I believe. And she was, Peggy Sawyer. She was absolutely amazing in the show. Her performance is one that stands out to me even all these years later as just being so like top notch and amazing and just very memorable because it was such a large part in the show, and you can't help remember her performance because she was just amazing in it. And Christine Ebersole was also in the show, like I said just a moment ago, and she's just an amazing talent. I saw her in 2 Broadway shows after I saw her in 42nd Street, Great Gardens, and War Paint. I'm sure she's done other shows, but I think those are the only 2 I've seen her in that I can remember off the top of my head. And yeah, she actually won a Tony Award for her performance in 42nd Street, this revival of 42nd Street. And another performer that I remembered off the top of my head was Mary Tessa. She's one of my favorite Broadway performers ever because I'm like a huge fan of the Broadway musical Xanadu. I'm what you would call a fanadu. I'm a fan of Xanadu. That's what the super fans of Xanadu called themselves back in the day, and I was definitely a fanadu. But yeah, she was in Xanadu. If I haven't said that by now, I'm sure I have. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, Mary Tessa was in this show, and I think this was this was for sure the first Broadway show I ever saw her in, so it's pretty cool to look back on and, see that. Another performer, I didn't know who they were at the time I saw 42nd Street, but since then I do, and that is Beth Leavel. Where is she? She's Beth Leavel. Yeah, she's right on. No, that's not her. Apologies. I thought I knew what I was talking about. Yeah, she's right there in the playbill. Beth Leavel is another amazing Broadway talent who I have since seen in several Broadway shows. I didn't actually see her in this Broadway show at my performance, but I believe she was a standby. She was a standby for Christine Ebersol's character and Mary Tessa's character. So I didn't see her in my performance, but it's pretty cool that she was part of the production for the show that I saw. Yeah, Beth Leavel is amazing. I believe she's definitely won one Tony Award for The Drowsy Chaperone, but she's been in The Prom, she's been in Elf, she's been in Baby It's You. I think she might have won 2 Tony Awards, but I feel like she for sure has won 1 Tony Award. But yeah, the last Broadway show I ever saw her in was The Prom. Amazing in that show. And I know if it ever comes to Broadway, she's supposed to be in The Devil Wears Prada, a stage adaptation of that movie. And she's going to play the Meryl Streep character that Meryl Streep played in the movie. So that's going to be pretty cool if that, comes to Broadway at some point. And as far as the creative team, I don't really remember anybody's name. I don't recognize anybody's name from seeing their work in other shows since. Oh wait, there was a little thing in here. I don't know who this performer is, but anytime I get these little flyers, I like to show them in the playbill because it's like these both say the same thing. I don't know why I have 2, but I guess somebody was joining the show and they probably didn't have time to add them to the playbill. It's probably last second, but it's a little souvenir. Joel Newsman joined the production. That name doesn't sound familiar, but I'm sure they've worked on several other shows, and just thought I show the pieces of paper. As far as the creative team is concerned, I don't recognize anybody's name from having seen their work in other shows since the only creative team member that names I remembered after all these years was Randy Skinner. He did the musical staging and he did new choreography for this production of 42nd Street. And yeah, the choreography was one of the standouts of this production. So I just, that's probably why I remembered his name all these years later. But as far as how I like the show, I absolutely like the show. There's like shows that you see. I've seen a lot of shows over the years, and it's nice to look back on these shows, and I can remember how much I liked certain shows, like, when I think about it. And, when I think of my favorite shows, this show isn't, like, at the top of the list that I remember of, but it's definitely, looking back on it now, it's definitely one of my favorite shows that I ever saw on the Broadway stage. It was probably the most well put together production of a show I've ever seen. There's shows that you see and that you like and you're like, I'm glad I went. And then there's shows that you feel like you're really special to have been able to see this live in person on stage. And the Broadway revival of 42nd Street is definitely one of them. It's a production that it was just perfection. It was just perfect from start to end. The thing that stands out to me the most is the choreography. It was just, I don't know if it won a Tony Award for that, because the producers also started on Broadway in the same season, so that won a lot of Tony Awards. But I would like to think this won for choreography, but I don't know. But yeah, the choreography was amazing, the costumes were amazing, the performances were amazing. It was just a show that kept your attention, and that's a sign of a great show, and I really, really like this show. Can't say enough great things about it. I had an amazing time at it. It was one of those shows that, like, I was just in awe of watching, because it was, like, probably that first production that, like, I don't know. I just felt like I was seeing something really special, Okay, so now for anything interesting in the playbill. This is an interesting playbill. I think it says showbill, so I don't know. When I was looking through the playbill, there's a lot of articles about the Ford company, the company for cars, and that's probably because it was, at the time, the theater was called the Ford Center for the Performing Arts. It has since changed to the Lyric Theater. It's the home of the Harry Potter show at the moment, but yeah, there's a lot of articles in here about the Ford company, and that's probably why. So there's not a lot of Broadway articles per se. There is an article in here about 42nd Street, this production. It's also on the last page as well. The article continues. And there's also an article in here about Brian Darcy. I'm all over the place today. I apologize. Brian Stokes Mitchell was in a production of Ken. I just watched Barbie. Okay, so Barbie and Ken are on my mind. Sorry. Brian Sos Mitchell was in a production of King Henry II, and then they have a whole article in here about that production. Viola Davis was also in this production. I remember when this was on Broadway. I didn't get to see it because at the time I wasn't seeing a lot of plays. I was mostly seeing musicals, and that's because I was going on bus trips, and the bus trips are mostly for musicals, but I love plays as well. Yeah, and then here the article continues. Yeah, and that's basically it for today's My Camera Went Out of Focus. So this is the perfect time to end this video, but hopefully, let's see. I'd like to end the camera. This day has been a day. Here, let me. Usually, if I do this with my hand at some point, let's see. This is just fitting for my day, you know. A day that just. Wow, my camera's still out of focus. This is very fitting for my life, you know. Sometimes that works. I feel like it could work. Whatever. I don't know. Things aren't meant to go my way today. Here, I'm gonna try one more time. Let's see if the playbill. Oh my gosh! Miracle on 42nd Street. I'm pretty sure the last time I made this video, my camera also went out of focus, and I said the same thing. Whatever. So sorry for that camera issue. My life isn't going great, per usual. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, where I talked about the 11th Broadway show I ever saw, which was the Broadway revival of 42nd Street. And be sure to stay tuned for my next video in this series, where I talk about my 12th Broadway show I ever saw, which I will be talking about my second time seeing Rent. I probably won't go as much over the show and my thoughts on the show, because I talked about the show already. But there is some fun stuff that I want to talk about in this show, in that video, because, well, you'll see. But anyway, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, bye!